Chapter 1, 131, Nash Alta Adventurer Level, 12 Orc, Nuleven. I'm level 12 now? I asked. Really? Yep, Nima grinned. Looks like your efforts training the new guards hasn't gone to waste. Yeah, but I bet that little pink turd's probably gonna come out of that dungeon at level 13 or something. I chuckled and shook my head. Any day now? You don't have to be worried about them, darling. Her grin faded. Your brothers are very capable. She was both right about my worries and how unnecessary they were. I thought I'd managed to put it from my mind by distracting myself with work. Nima was always able to tell what was bothering me, though, even when I didn't have a full grasp on it. Yeah, and they have Larry with them, I agreed. It's been a month. I haven't heard of anyone being in the dungeon for that long. I looked at the records for you. It's pretty rare for a party to clear the dungeon, and the fastest it's been done was 3 weeks. The other 2 parties that managed it both exited the dungeon at 6 weeks. So I shouldn't worry until week 7? You shouldn't worry at all, she crossed her arms in exasperation. Time works differently in the dungeon, so we can't really say how long they'll take. But they'll be okay. I believe you, I assured her with a laugh. Do you want to go stargazing tonight? I can't, she sighed. The entire back office is filled with draft forms that need to be filled out. Can't put them off? Not if we want to maintain our status as a village, and I've been assured by the chief that we do. It's kind of funny, in a dark way, that we see the negative side of becoming a village so soon after having it officialized. Yeah, I nodded glumly. The High Chief's taken more than half of the guards that I managed to recruit so far. I wasn't even told what war the conscription was for. Were you? No, and a lot of the adventurers aren't taking that well. Nothing is scarier than not knowing. Some of them are even thinking about fleeing. I nodded again half-heartedly. I knew exactly how they felt. If it weren't for Chief Gluehern choosing me as guard captain, I'd likely have been conscripted as well. Having to leave Nima behind and abandon Nick and Yulk in that dungeon to go off to fight some mysterious war would have left me with a difficult decision. On the other hand, if I hadn't been promoted, I'd have been able to go into the dungeon with them. I hope they reconsider, I said. Ulermak wouldn't conscript people unless it was necessary. Yeah, you're probably right, Nima sighed again. I am. And unfortunately, I've got to get back to work, my love. I grabbed her hand and gave it a reassuring squeeze. We locked eyes for a few moments, and everything in me wanted to kiss her, but enough of me wanted to avoid getting slapped that I was able to refrain. When I released her hand, she gave me a sly grin. You know, you could always come by tonight and help me with the paperwork, she said teasingly. I had, thankfully, wizened up enough to know that she wasn't actually extending an invitation. She was far too serious about formal courtship for anything like that. Instead, she was poking fun at my illiteracy, and I decided to take it like a champ. Well, paperwork isn't exactly my specialty, I laughed. If you've got a stamp and can show me where the pages need it, though. Unfortunately, it's all filling out forms. But if I do need anything stamped, I'll be sure to find you. You do that, I chuckled and winked as I turned to leave. See you tomorrow, she called after me. I waved over my shoulder as I left the Adventurers Guild. The walk toward the barracks was uneventful, though I paused to contemplate our village's unfinished wall. The conscription hadn't just grabbed most of my guards, it had also nabbed our laborers. I found myself hoping that they all returned safely. With a melancholic sigh, I entered the barracks. The entry lead directly into the mess, a wide room with plenty of tables to take cover behind should the need arise. I strode past the tables into the next room, which contained several bunks for the night guard and whomever needed them. Finally, I reached the duty office. The captain has returned from his long lunch, Altimos said from his desk next to mine. Must have been quite the meal. I didn't eat, I replied, staring at the paper in his hand. What's that? Just a report on a pickpocket. I'm making sure that there's no spelling mistakes. Something that the captain of the guard would normally do, if they were able. Why did Gluehern hire an illiterate guard captain anyway? It was charming when Nima gave me shit for my inability to read, but I found it a lot less charming when other people decided to. I walked to the side of his desk and crossed my arms, looking down at the much smaller orc. Because I didn't neglect my training unlike most of you, I said dryly. I was the only one in the whole village qualified to train guards in combat against adventurers, should the need arise. Speaking of which, have you completed today's run? The truth was that Gluhern had completely forgotten that I couldn't read or write, and I hadn't realized that the job came with paperwork. When I figured out that I was lacking and raised the point to Gluhern, he impatiently waved me off and told me to figure it out. I did so by making the mistake of hiring the ever-abrasive Altimos. He was a full head shorter than the average orc, and scrawny enough to be mistaken for an ill-fed mage. His skin was so pale from being indoors too frequently that one could mistake him for a woman, were it not for his untrimmed beard. His brothers were both adventurers and had brought home more than enough coin to allow him to sit on his laurels and read every day. When I put out word that I needed a scribe, his father had begged me to hire him. Apparently, he wanted a job to be able to buy books but couldn't find anything else in the village and was too afraid to look for work abroad. His incessant whining regarding his circumstances was driving his poor father insane, so I agreed to hire him on the condition that he commit to a daily training routine. Point taken, sir, Altimos said warily. Actually, I think you're about ready for the next phase of your training, I interrupted with a grin. Tomorrow, we'll double the workout. What? Sir, As a matter of fact, I believe that every time you point out the reason that you have this job, I'll take it as a sign of confidence in your physical capabilities and move you on to the next phase of training. I hope you'll keep your stamina in mind whilst wagging your tongue in the future. But... The office door burst open and Glatter, one of the guards, entered the room. He snapped to attention, breathing heavily. Then he realized that he hadn't removed his helmet and quickly took it off. What is it? I demanded, irked by the lack of decorum. Sir, your brothers have returned from the dungeon. Oh, good, I said with relief, then paused. Why are you here and they aren't? I tried to direct them to you, sir, but the humans said they had to talk to Gluhern, and Yulk pushed past me. Yulk pushed past you? I raised an eyebrow. Like with a shove? Yes, sir. He looked like he was in a really bad mood, sir. It was rare for Yulk to be moody, and the reasons ranged from silly to deadly serious. Shit. Okay, I'm gonna head them off. Back to work, both of you. Yes, sir, Glatter said with a salute. Yes, sir, Altimos said with a despairing sigh. I stepped past Glatter and jogged out of the barracks. After cutting through the market, I ran up the street until I spotted Larry's skull floating above the crowd. Even at a full sprint, though, I didn't catch up to them until we were right outside of the chief's hall. Hey! I shouted as I approached. Nick, Yulk, Larry, and 4 orcs I'd never met turned to look at me. I raised an eyebrow at the strangers, but almost did a double take when I saw Yulk's robe. Nash? Nick asked. No shit, I said sarcastically. Why the rush to see Gluhern? And what's with the We need to seal the dungeon, Yulk replied angrily. We don't have the time to discuss it twice. Let's go, brother. Even with Glader's warning about his bad mood, it was still a shock to see my younger brother that angry. Even more shocking was the news that the dungeon, our village's primary source of income, would have to be sealed. I stared at Yulk with my mouth agape, but managed to follow him when he turned to enter the hall. The guards that I stationed at the entrance didn't halt us, despite our lack of appointment. This irked me until I realized that I, their boss, was accompanying the group of people that they might have otherwise halted. Still, I made a mental note to ensure that the guards understood that all unexpected visitors had to be interrogated and cleared in the future. We entered the audience room and found Chief Gluhern having a lively conversation with some of the influential village elders. Once again, and I'll say it slowly for you this time, it is the order of the High Chief, Gluhern growled. I'm not even a great chief. You're asking far too much of me. Surely there is something that can be done, though, one of the elders said. Perhaps money? A donation to the war effort. My grandson is old enough to be conscripted, and no matter how many times you fucking repeat yourself, the conscription will remain the law of the land, Gluhern shouted. If you have a problem with the law, You're free to travel to Kirkenna and try to whine High Chief Ulurmak's ear off about it. The chief glanced at us and almost winced. The elders began to speak again, but he held up his hand to interrupt them. I've heard your complaints, and I don't believe either of us have anything beneficial to add to this discussion, he said. I declare the matter settled. I have other business to attend to. Be gone. But Chief... Be gone! The elders reluctantly stood and left, grumbling as they went. Chief Gluhern took a deep breath and let it out with a massive sigh before gesturing for us to approach. He eyed Yolk with a raised eyebrow, likely wondering why he was wearing a white robe. Lord Visamiro, Nick, it's good to see you again, Gluhern said. I'm glad you made it back from the dungeon safely. Who is it that accompanies you? We do not have time for introductions, Chief, Yolk snapped. We have to seal the dungeon. Don't interrupt me, spellslinger, Gluhern shouted, reaching for something to throw. He paused as his hand touched a nearby goblet. What the fuck did you just say? We need to seal the dungeon, Yolk repeated. Now. The chief sat back, crossed his arms, and glared at Yolk for a moment. Explain. Demons appeared from a rift in the dungeon, Yolk explained tersely. They plan to invade the village and use it as a foothold to invade the rest of the unified chiefdoms. We collapsed a portion of the dungeon to stop them, but that was days ago, and there's no telling how long it will hold them off. We need to activate the main entrance seal. We should probably activate some additional barriers within the entrance corridor as well. The dungeon is our primary economic driver. We won't have an economy when we're all dead or enslaved. One of the demons was Marquis Naberius, the supreme commander of the demon forces, according to historical recounts of the previous invasion. It's reasonable to assume that we're going to be hit with at least a full legion, and foolish to assume otherwise. Fuck! Gluhern slammed his fist against his armrest. Fucking fuck shit! Gods damn it all. That's what the conscription is about. Shit. Narfi! A door behind us opened, and an assistant popped her head in. Yes, Chief? She asked. We need to seal the dungeon. Get 2 teams together and have one of them supplied with as many barriers as they can reasonably set up by the end of the day. The barrier team will enter the dungeon, set the barriers, and then exit the dungeon. If they are not finished by dusk, they are to be retrieved by the second team. Once both teams are out, or if neither team exits the dungeon within an hour of the retrieval team being sent in, the main entrance seal is to be activated. But... I've given the order, Gluhern interrupted. See it done, Narfi. Yes, Chief. Narfi's head quickly disappeared and the door closed. Okay, now tell me what happened, Gluhern said. Why are there demons in my dungeon? Yolk and Nick proceeded to elaborate on what happened in the dungeon. Yolk's tone softened somewhat, but it was obvious that he was still angry about something. They introduced the 4 adventurers that accompanied them, told us about their fight against the flesh monstrosities, and then the reason for Yolk's ire became apparent. Thousands of libraries worth of information stuck behind a pile of fucking rubble, Yolk growled. If it even survived! All because some demons decided that our village would be a cool spot to hang out while they tried to murder and torture everyone in the unified chiefdoms. Yolk's outburst went mostly unnoticed, because everyone else had been caught up in a couple of revelations that were made during the explanation. Garen, Correa, Nith, Dostin, and even Chief Gluhern were all looking at Nick as if he had 2 heads, which was pretty apt as far as metaphors go. Wait, hold on, Gluhern massaged his temples. Nick, how long have you had an AI in your head? Well, technically it's been there since before I woke up. Nick rubbed the back of his neck. But I didn't know about it until we went into the dungeon for the first time. And I'm just now hearing about it. I think we need to have an extensive conversation about trust, human. Need to talk to him and the AI about it. Yolk threw his hands up in frustration. All 10 bothered to collect from the servers was some diary from a mad scientist and a map that's outdated. The humans were doing research in there. They made the fucking dungeon! So much important knowledge left behind. Yolk, like I told you, 10 couldn't hold all of it, Nick sighed. And I'm sorry, Chief Gluhern. I didn't know who I could trust besides my brothers. I thought. I thought I had been teleported to a new world and I didn't. Nick fell silent and his expression dropped. Even I could tell that he was about to break. 10 had been a huge shock to everyone who hadn't been in the know, but the revelation that this was Nick's world had to have shattered the poor human. Yulk's expression softened, and I put a hand on Nick's shoulder to steady him. I understand, Nick, Gluhern said gently. I probably would have done the same, were I in your position. As such, it behooves me to forgive you for this transgression. Just don't let it happen again. Yulk and I glanced at each other with raised eyebrows. Oh, shut up, Gluhern growled at us. I can be eloquent when I want to be. Didn't say anything, Chief, I smirked. Just because you didn't say it with words doesn't mean you didn't say it, shithead. Pardon me for interrupting the moment of levity, Larry said. If I understand the situation correctly, though, our next step should be to locate a rift that leads to the Anielic realm. Doing so may accomplish 2 of our objectives simultaneously. The first would be to allow Nick to continue his quest to return to his family. The second would be to inform the Aniels of the demonic invasion and request their help in thwarting it. I'm not exactly a history buff, but I seem to recall the Aniels weren't much better than the demons, Gluhern said. That's inaccurate. A revisionist history that I've long wondered the source of, the Lich explained. However, given that the demons knew of this village even though it was founded long after the previous invasion, I suspect that they must have spies. Spies who would be in a good position to spread propaganda. Spies? Gluhern asked. How would demons be able to spy and spread propaganda without being spotted? They craft their bodies from magic. It stands to reason that they would be able to form those bodies to be malleable enough to alter their appearance, if they so desired. Shit. That complicates things. If the demons still have spies amongst us, they might be able to undo the seal and let the other demons out of the dungeon. And if they can change their appearance... There's certain symbols that injure demons, Nick said. The person using the symbol has to know that the symbol will do that, though. Symbols? Gluhern asked. Yeah, the easiest one to make is a cross. It's 2 lines, and it can be made out of pretty much anything. I can draw it for you. Go ahead. Gluhern grabbed a stick of charcoal and a loose leaf of paper and handed it to Nick. He drew 2 lines and handed the paper back. The chief cocked his head to the side and raised an eyebrow. That's it? He asked. Yeah. If you make a bunch of them as pendants or something and tell people that it'll protect them from demons, it'll burn the demons when they get too close to it. Wow. This could seriously have a massive impact on the war effort. Well, not really, Yulk said. It will help us find any spies, but demons can still use magic. And bows. And spears. Plus, demons know counter symbols that will nullify the protection, Nick added. It wouldn't hurt to have a cross on hand, but having a sword as a backup would be a good idea. Wise words, Gluhern said with a small sigh. Damn, though. I knew it wouldn't be that easy. Okay, we'll have these made for everyone in the village as quickly as possible. Yulk, Nick, I'm going to send you to Kirkina to inform High Chief Ulurmak of your findings. While you're there, you should see if you can find out where the Anielic rifts are. I will accompany them, Larry nodded. The answer likely lay within the historical records, and I'll be able to tell which of them are accurate and which of them are not. A nasty feeling bubbled in my chest. It was a mixture of anxiety and sorrow. I wanted to go with my brothers and help Nick find his way back to his family, like I had promised, but I was being excluded. And I suppose I'll just stay here then? I chuckled. Yes, Gluhern replied. We've had to surrender half of our guard force and may have to fight demons soon, Nash. We need our captain of the guard present and accounted for. I know, Chief, I shrugged. I'm mostly joking. It just doesn't feel right after I pledged to help and everything. We'll be okay, brother, Yulk said. Doubly so knowing that you are here keeping Mother safe. I just nodded. Knowledge of my duty to the village didn't lessen the sting of being left behind. Knowing that I might soon face a danger equal to or greater than what my brothers may face didn't lessen the worry I had for them either. Even if I went with them, though, I'd have to face the sting of abandoning my duty and worry after Mom and Nima. The matter is settled then, Gluhern said. Would it be possible for us to leave in the morning? Nick asked, rubbing his lower back. I feel like it's been over a month since I last slept in a bed or took a bath. That's fine, as long as it's first thing in the morning. Stop by a smith and pick up a pendant on your way too. Was there anything else? Nobody said anything. All right, you're all dismissed. All of us left the hall, and when we were outside, the adventurers said their farewells. Larry also parted ways with us, stating a desire to travel ahead to Kirkina and get a head start on research. He promised to meet Yulk and Nick at the Magic Academy once they arrived. Once he left, I turned to Yulk to ask the question that had been bothering me since I'd seen him again. Where did you get that white robe? I asked.